Hello, my lovelies. Ginny O here, the author with no last name, and it's part 2 of It's Easy to Blame the Writers. And today we're going to continue talking about the toxic kind of cesspit that is the perception of the writer industry at the moment. How social media has made it really easy to blame the writers by, when things go wrong, or franchises or movies or television shows do not go the way that fans want them to. So, there's a lot of context and nuance around this topic, about what's going on in the industry, but God knows a lot of people are allergic to context and nuance, so let's talk about what is going on in the industry. So when the WGA went on strike, I don't know a lot about the film and television writing industry. I'm not part of it. Let's just say if there's an apocalypse, somebody comes down on high and blesses me with some good fortune, and Hollywood wanted to pick up the loan prospect. Right now I'd say no, because, strikes. I am not a scab. But let's just say that. Now, in the book industry, what happens is that, your agent talks with the studio, they come up with a contract, they negotiate a pay for you for options, basically. It's storming. Fun. And you agree, you take the money, and you run like fury. Maybe you buy a house. This is what happened with Bitten, this is what happened with Harry Dresden, this is what happened sort of to Game of Thrones. This is exactly what happened with The Witcher. You took your money, the author of the novels took their money and got out of Dodge. So the author has no real control over the scripts or anything that happens next. That's how it happens in the traditional publishing industry. And if the author, like the Children of Blood and Bone author, make noises about wanting to, edit the scripts or make the scripts themselves, they're pretty much laughed at and said, no, that's not how it works. So, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh, why? I'm going to support them from going on strike because, there's got to be a good reason they're going on strike. So I went and then I looked it up and I'm like, what's going on in the industry that means the writers are going on? Why are the writers going on strike? And so I went, I listened to writers. People putting up their experience in the Hollywood writing industry, including little visual checks with their residuals and, how they get, the pitches and everything. And what is the power, disproportion between CEOs, marketing teams, producers, and the writers. So, while it is easy to blame writers for everything that goes wrong with your show that you love, perhaps you ought to be blaming the CEOs and the marketers and the producers rather than the writers. Because, well, lots of reasons, actually. So the CEOs are the ones, in charge of what they want to see made for the next 10, 15 years, making the projections. Well, what way is the studio going to go? They're the ones greenlighting all these huge-ass franchises with extended movies and television shows and all that. And sequels nobody's asking for. So, what is, kind of happening? Why are we getting all this stuff instead of, say, original IP? Well, if you talk to writers, showrunners, appropriation editors at publishing houses, original IP, good original IP, is being rejected all the time. And showrunners and writers and, appropriation editors, they're all really upset about it. I mean, really upset about it. They're like, we want really good, cool, original stuff too. Take the, I don't know why am I... Take the Powerpuff Girls showrunner. The guy who created it pitched 16 original ideas before CEO marketing teams accepted his very reluctant Powerpuff Girls reboot. 16 original ideas. I mean, talk about depressing. Like, just really frustrating to be like, I want to try all this really new, cool stuff that has been running around in my head, and let's do a Powerpuff Girls reboot. Okay. So CEOs and marketing teams and producers are deliberately making choices to turn the script writing profession, particularly for television, into a gig economy. They're making choices. They could stop making these choices at any time. But they're no longer, beholden to, the product. Okay? They're not beholden to the product. They're beholden to the stockholders. So these CEOs, these, marketing people, these corporate studios have come out and said blatantly that they want to break the WGA. They want people to end up homeless. They don't want script writing to be a stable profession, and they want more power than they already have, which is disproportionately huge. Okay? It is so huge that they are throwing away hundreds of original ideas in favor of reboots and expanding franchises and remakes. Okay? They are choosing to make limited run series that are 6 to 10 episodes long, which means there are less writers on the series. There's usually like one writer per episode in the room. And many times that these writing rooms are being turned into mini writing rooms where, you do a whole bunch of work for 12 weeks and you leave, and, the showrunner's carrying everything. So then these 6 to 10 episodes, that's not, a full year's worth of work. That's like 2 to 3 months worth of work, and then you got to find another job and you got to go find another project to work on, and that is exhausting. And then the lack of this kind of 22 episode seasonal syndicated format over multiple years means there are more shows coming out and writers are jumping from project to project. Like, there is so much stuff coming out from these streaming services, whether it's Amazon or Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu. Well, Hulu is part of Disney, or Paramount Plus or Peacock, or it's HBO Max. It's just exhausting. You cannot keep up with it. So right, and then because this is happening because CEOs and marketing teams and producers and studios have put all this data together for streaming subscriptions, and they're going, oh, the subscribes drop off after 6 to 10 episodes, and they only drive new subscriptions for 3 seasons. And since CEOs are now beholden and determined by subscribes instead of by viewing numbers, instead of ratings like they used to be on syndicated television, they will condition you, the audience, into thinking that 6 to 10 episode seasons are normal instead of having 22 episodes for 15 years like Supernatural, or 22 episodes around season 7 was kind of short for like 12 years, like Bones. Like, we used to have, I don't want to say used to because some of them are still kind of wrapping up, but the shows on cable television would run for 10 to 20 seasons, and they would be, 18 to 22 episodes long. So writers would have year-long worth work. They'd take a break. They'd have their vacation. So if you broke up your 22 episodes over, took a midwinter break and a spring break or whatever, you could break up your vacation time, get a little downtime, come back to the writing room, work on the next season type of thing. And you had, syndication, so maybe there was reruns, so you would be getting residuals, and you could pay off your, pay your mortgage, pay your rent, send your, get your health insurance. And then now with this mini room format, you write something, you don't know what's going to be used, you leave, you're not going to the set, you're losing valuable experience, The writing doesn't stop once filming starts. The writer has to be there. The head writer needs to be there on the set to go with the actors, to work with the actors and the directors to make sure the dialogue is hitting at the right notes at the right time on the right consonants, or things like that. And so there are a whole bunch of union rules about how you move up in the industry. So if you're not there in a writing room with getting so many scripts under your belt, and you're not spending so much time on set with the senior writer, you're not moving up in your industry to become a showrunner, which means there's less opportunity for you later, and you're losing valuable job experience. So you're working multiple projects at once, and then, all this original IP that's being rejected. Not only are CEOs just wanting a pilot episode anymore, they want a pilot episode. They want an outline of the first season, every single episode in the first season, down to the ad breaks. And then they want like some sort of synopsis of the second season and maybe a pilot of the second season, all for free. They don't want to pay you for that. They want all this unpaid labor, which, if this becomes a gig economy, you watch how writers are going to start just billing hours for everything. You want that? You got to pay me for it. You want that? You got to pay me for it. That's what the gig economy is. Okay? There is not going to be this free type of unpaid labor that's going on right now. I mean, they're biting the hand that feeds them type of thing. And then to make matters worse, they're removing content from streaming services. And so they don't have to pay residuals, so they can have a tax break. And, and residuals from streaming are already at a fifth of what they'd be from syndicated television. And they're not moving these shows to cable television either. And they're not putting them out on DVD and Blu-ray, so there's no residuals from the DVD and Blu-ray, so no physical copies are out there in the world. So the writers aren't getting money to provide a stable life and keep their health insurance, and all this is very stressful. And we're back to the gas and the brakes. So if you are, under a lot of stress, that brake hits hard. It's really hard to create when you are under that massive amount of stress. When you're working from job to job, you're working multiple projects at once, you're exhausted, you don't know if you can pay your bills, you don't know if you're going to have health insurance, and you're one paycheck, one bad job away from being homeless. Creativity doesn't thrive under stress. It shrinks. Okay? And CEOs are making even more, decisions, especially when it comes to IP and franchises. They're telling the writers, they're telling the directors, don't read the source material. And it's just like, well, or, how can I make it? How can I make this adaptation if I don't read the source material? Or, they're telling them to simplify it for mass audiences because the seasons are too short to go into the full, dramatic, complex details of what's going on in the actual books. Yes, I'm talking about The Witcher here. Or, or they give in some sort of original pitch, and then they have some IP slapped onto it for the come see it marketing versus the selling original IP type marketing. Because it's easier to market something that's got a well-known name to it. Like, how many people would have watched a TV show about a goth teenager going to, to this high boarding school and in a love triangle if it didn't have Wednesday slapped on it? You're gonna have people who are gonna eat that up, but you're going to have the people who are like, oh, who love the Addams Family, see the Wednesday IP slapped on it, and they're just gonna watch it for the Wednesday IP, right? So and yes, it felt like very much like an original idea that got an IP slapped on it. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what it kind of felt like. Or Netflix, in particular, is telling people to give their shows the Stranger Things treatment. They're trying to make things look a specific way, directed and shot a specific way, had the actors in specific type of roles. So you're putting these like creative constraints on the writers and the directors, that the writers and the directors, they don't want. And some of this is actually to keep from paying, say, the comic creators. They just don't want to pay it. But we'll probably get back to that. But here's the thing, and I've said this before. CEOs do not care about good writing. They care about what sells and what is making investors money. They have stopped selling products and are starting to sell Wall Street shares. And as long as the stock is going up and they can say the shows are following certain formulas that have been big before and made money, they do not care about the quality of writing. Period. So they're going to give nonsensical orders to the writers and the directors and everything about, what they're doing. Make it like this. Do this. Do that. We want X. We want Y. Think about Wednesday. Wednesday should not have had a love triangle in it. That was nonsensical. But that the CEOs, the Netflix, because Jenny Ortega came out and said it at the time, was that Netflix really wanted us to put this love triangle in there. So, she played it off because she's a good actress that she didn't care about either boy. And that really came through. And and the whole fandom, like the massive amounts of the fandom that I saw, latched on to Enid and Wednesday, which is fine. That's great. Because once again, you never know what's going to catch on. And but you have the CEOs are like, oh, we know love triangles make money, so let's put a love triangle in this young adult type of television show that's kind of Wednesday being Nancy Drew, and that will make us money. They don't care what it does to the quality of the show. They don't care that people think this is stupid. They just want to make that money. So CEOs are not the good guys here. No matter what you think, that the writers are bad, we need to get rid of the writers. The CEOs are not going to save you. They're not incentivized to save the writing industry. They are trying to systematically destroy it. Okay. CEOs are making these decisions. Okay, take the MCU. Large chunks of action sequences in the MCU have been farmed out to VFX studios to be blocked and lit before the script is even finished. So when a director of the MCU says something like, action scenes don't have emotion, we know that it's completely false and bunk. But at the same time, that director has had nothing to do with that action scene. And the actors are not being told what they're fighting. They're not even being given full scripts, or they're having massive corporate push script changes halfway through the movie. And, and there's higher possibility that the writer's not on set to fine-tune the dialogue in cooperation with the director and the actors. This is out of the writer's control. Sometimes it's out of the director's control. But let's blame the writers for what the CEOs are deciding to do without the writers or the directors' input. And we have these long-term franchises. We've gone back to this like studio system. That means a lot of stars are aging out of their roles. And or they don't want the role to continue past them. So they're trying to handle the role over to someone younger, and it's going badly with the fans. So, like, so much so the actor playing young Luke Skywalker for Disney Plus is being CGI deep-faked with Mark Hamill's younger face, even though it's completely unnecessary. Because have you looked at him? The actor looks like a young Mark Hamill. The fear of backlash is that bad, Disney would rather CGI poorly Mark's face over this guy's face. CEOs are making the decisions, and writers are too busy trying to get work to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads and their health insurance, to be able to have the power to push back while these things are happening. That's why they've gone on strike. And maybe if they're paid better, maybe if they're not under stress, maybe if corporate stops saying things like, don't read the source material, or maybe if corporate lets directors direct their action sequences, or things like that, maybe the quality of writing would go up. So corporations, CEOs, they're not your friend. The writers have every reason to be on strike, assuming they're still on strike when this video goes out. And it's really disingenuous to say it's the writer's fault. They're doing this deliberately when they're being handed, something that's massive, and then they're being all these chains are being put on them. They're being, all this, so they can't even authentically create, something that the fans are already familiar with and might enjoy, and, something that they would like to see and enjoy. And then they have to go out and defend their choices without throwing the CEOs under the bus because the CEOs control their paycheck. It's just a bad situation on the ground. So that's why, the union exists. Union strong! So take care of yourselves, my lovelies. Next time, we're going to talk about why it's easy to blame the writers and meeting core fan expectations. The myth. So bless, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.